in me. Every time I touch that track, it turns into gold. Everybody knows I got the magic in me.
Welcome back to the transformation unit. Today we're going to be talking about two-step transformations. So let's start by taking a look at a reminder we have down here that says the figure before the transformation is called the pre-image. And we label this pre-image with letters. So for example, triangle ABC. And now that we've taken a look at some reminders, let's take a look at some key ideas. So our first key idea is after we apply the transformation, we use the symbol known as this little dash. When we read this symbol, we say it is prime. So for example, triangle A prime, B prime, C prime. After we apply a second transformation, we're going to use the symbol that looks like two dashes. And we read this symbol, we say double prime. So for example, A double prime, B double prime, C double prime. Now let's take a look at example A. So here at example A, they tell us to translate the figure 2, 4, then reflect it over the y-axis. So we're going to be doing two things to each point here. So notice our boxes, we have a box for A box for A prime, and a box for A double prime. So we're going to start by translating the figure 2, 4. And I'm going to start by doing that by writing down all of the points that we already have. So A is at -4, -1. It looks like B is at -5, no, -6, -7. And C is at -8, -5. So we've got all of our points written down that we have already. So now that we've done that, we're going to make the first transformation, which is to translate 2, 4. So when I'm translating 2, I know that's going to be moving to the right or adding 2 to each of my points. So I'm going to be adding -4 and +2, which is going to give me -2. I'm going to do the same thing to B. So -6, I'm going to add 2, I'm going to get -4. And then -8, I'm going to add 2, and I'm going to get -6. So I've done the first part of that transformation. Now I need to be doing the second part of that transformation, which is going to be adding 4 to my second coordinate. Remember, since it's going up 4, we're going to add that to our y coordinate. So 1 plus 4 is going to give me 5. -7 plus 4 is going to give me -3. And -5 plus 4 is going to give me -1. So that's my first transformation, or my first out of the two. So now I'm going to plot those points and label them on my graph A prime, B prime, C prime. So I've got my -2, +5, -4, -3, and -6, -1. So now that I've got those plots pointed, I'm going to label them A prime, B prime, C prime. And I'm going to graph them, or at least connect them together, to make a decent looking triangle. The next thing I'm going to be doing is going to be doing a reflection over the y-axis. So now I can do this one of two ways. I can do this mathematically, knowing that when I flip over the y-axis, knowing it's the x value that will change, or I can just count from where I am over the y-axis. So we're going to be we're going to be reflecting over our y-axis. So just going to count. We could do this mathematically, but I'm going to do the counting method because I find it a little bit easier on my graph. So since this is A prime at -2, I'm going to go 1, 2 the other direction, and I'm going to have that as A double prime. Same thing with the C is over at -6, so I'm going to put it at +6, and that's going to be C double prime. And then B is at -4, so I'm going to move it over to +4 and call that B double prime. Now that I've got all of my points, I'm going to connect them to make another decent looking triangle. And there I can see that I've done two transformations in the same problem. Now I have to write down my points. So A prime is at 2, +5. And again, I'm going to use my parentheses to put around that. My B double prime is at +4, -3. And my C double prime is at +6, -1. So I've got all my points for both transformations, and I've completed this example. Let's take a look at example B. So here we are at example B, and it says the pre-image DEF is shown on the coordinate plane. Draw a reflection over the x-axis, so that's an important step. And then we're going to perform a translation of right 3 units and down 2 units. Label the image D double prime, E double prime, F double prime. So again, the first thing we're going to start doing is by writing down the points that we have. So D is at 4, 6. We've got E over at 6, 8. And we've got F at 8, 2. So now that we have those, we can either use our math for our reflection or our counting. Since we're going to be doing a reflection, I'm going to go counting over the axis. So this time we're going to be going over our x-axis, so we make sure that we've got that a line drawn there so we know which way we're going. So E appears to be up 8, so I'm going to go down to negative 8 for E prime. Okay, again, the reflection is written first, so that's the thing that we're going to be doing first. If we had had the translation first, that's the first thing we do. So whatever you see first is the first transformation. Whatever you see second is the second transformation. All right, now we're going to go on to D. D looks like it's up 6, so we're going to go down 6. And again, label that D prime. And then F looks like it's up 2, so we're going to go down 2, and the F prime. So now that we've got all of our points, we're going to put them together to make our decent looking triangle, and that now we're going to write down the points that we have. So D prime is going to be at positive 4, negative 6. We've got E prime at positive 6, negative 8. And we've got F prime at positive 8, negative 2. So those are all of our prime points. Now we need to do a translation of right 3 and down 2 in order to finish our transformation and get our double prime points. So we're going to start by either doing the math or counting. I'm going to do the math in this case. So since I have a right of 3, I know I'm going to be adding 3 to each one of my points. So since I'm going to be adding 3, I need to make sure that I add it to my primes, not to my original. So 4 plus 3 is going to give me 7. 6 plus 3 is going to give me 9. And 8 plus 3 is going to give me 11. So that's the first point in our double prime. The next thing that we're going to be doing is going to be going down 2 units. So we know that's going to be minus 2. So again, we need to be doing that to our prime units. So negative 6 minus 2 is going to be negative 8. Negative 8 minus 2, negative 10. And then negative 2 minus 2 is negative 4. So now that we have all our points, we can attempt to graph them on our coordinate plane. Looks like one of them is not going to be quite on our coordinate plane, but we can make it work. So our first point is going to be at 7, negative 8. So we're going to go over 7 and down to negative 8, which it appears is right here. And that's going to be our D double prime. We're going to do 9, negative 10, so over to 9, down to negative 10. And that's going to be our E double prime. And then our last one we're going to have a bit of a problem with because we need to go over to 11, which is not on our graph, but we'll try our best. And down negative 4. And then we've got F double prime. Now we're going to connect all of our things together to make a decent looking triangle. So again, it looks like we've completed our second transformation. Now let's take a look at example C. Here we are at example C, and it says translate the figure negative 5, 2 and perform a dilation with a scale factor of 2. Now it's not asking for any of our points this time, and it gave us the picture on the graph. So I feel like this time we're going to have to do a lot of counting and then do our multiplication all on our own, because dilation, again, requires multiplication. So let's start with our first transformation, which is we're going to be going translating left 5 and up 2. So I'm going to count for each of our points. So we're going to start here with D. So we're going to go left 5, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and up 2, 1, 2. And that's going to be our D prime. Same thing with our E. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up 2. And we've got our E prime. Same thing with G. We're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, and up 2, 1, 2. So we've got our G prime, and then we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2 with our F prime. So now that we've got all of those and we've got our fancy looking trapezoid, we're now going to perform a dilation with a scale factor of 2, which means we're going to need to multiply all of our points by 2. So looking at D prime, that appears to be at negative 2, 0. So we're going to be multiplying that by 2. So to do that, we're going to end up with negative 4, 0. So let's plot that point at negative 4, 0 and call it D double prime. Now we're going to do the same thing for E. Our point appears to be at 4, positive 2. So again, we're going to be multiplying everything by 2. So 4 times 2 is going to be 8. 2 times 4 is going to be 4. And our point is going to be at positive 8, positive 4. And that's going to be E double prime. Now we're going to do the same thing to G. So our G prime appears to be at 0, negative 4. We're going to multiply that by 2. So 0 times 2 is 0. And negative 4 times 2 is going to be negative 8. So 0, negative 8 for our G prime. And then F prime appears to be at positive 3, negative 4. So positive 3, negative 4. We're going to multiply that by 2. So we're going to get positive 6, negative 8. So positive 6, negative 8. And we've got our F prime. And then we're going to connect all of our now double primes, which we need to go back and fix for F and G. Connect all of our double primes, and now we have our shape that is 2 times the size of the shape that we moved, and we've completed both transformations. Let's go ahead and take a look at the last example. So here we are at the last example, and it looks like this time they've given us only the numbers and not the graph. So last time we had just the graph, no numbers. This time we have the numbers, no graph. And it's asking us to reflect the figure over the x-axis and perform a dilation of 1/2. So let's start with knowing that when we reflect over the x-axis, the coordinate that's going to change is going to be the y. Remember, it's the opposite of whichever one we're reflecting over. So starting with A, negative 2, flipping the 1 is going to be negative 2, negative 1. At B, we're going to have 3, negative 1. At C, we're going to have 3, positive 3. And then at D, we're going to have a negative 2 and a positive 3. So now that we have all of those points, the next thing that we need to do is then perform a dilation of 1/2. So either we can multiply all of our points by 2, multiply all of our points by 0.5 or divide by 2. So negative 2 divided by 2 is going to be negative 1, and then negative 1 divided by 2 is going to be negative 0.5. Our second point, 3 divided by 2 is going to be 1.5, and then negative 1 divided by half is going to, or times half, is going to be negative 0.5. 3, again, cut in half, 1.5. 3 cut in half, 1.5. Negative 2 cut in half is negative 1, and 3 cut in half is 1.5. Now I know that we got decimals for our answers here, but that's not a big deal because we're not having to graph any of these answers. It just tells us to do the math. So it doesn't matter that we got decimal answers because luckily we're not going to have to graph them. That brings us to the end of this video. So if you like this video, go ahead and throw us a thumbs up. If you love this video, go ahead and throw us a sub, and we will catch you in the next one.
When I hit the floor, the girls come snap.